Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of our talk. I'm very excited. Thank you so much for the nice feedback last time. Very much appreciated. This time we're going to dive deeper into what is necessary in the time of the shift. And we're also going to introduce and talk a little bit more about Ticket to Ride. Some of you were very excited, and the next round is starting very soon. So let's dive right into it.
Tim, I am so fascinated to hear more about what you've learned with all of your experience. Is one of the most important things for people in these specific times.
20,000 years, the planet itself, herself, is going through a cycle. We've seen cycles before. We had lots of ancient civilizations that have left documentations about big biblical floods, about cataclysmic moments, about changes in the field of reality. We do see these changes when we look into archaeology and see that some of the most magnificent structures are extremely old. 26,000 years. This shift happens every time, about between 12,500 and 26,000 years, depends on what's happening. And we just made it through the very first shift, and it's going to crystallize into people. Things will change on the planet in dramatic ways, but not in bad ways, rather in ways where consciousness now has the opportunity to develop into very healthy, in healthy waters, so to speak. This has been prophesized. Lots and lots of these so-called lost civilizations or ancient civilizations that used to be here have left marks. They have left, indications on pillars, in engravings. They have scriptures, most of which have not survived the last infiltration of the Earth reality field, but some have, and some are still there, and they are all telling the same story that there have been different times on the planet, that we are going through that cyclically, that people are supposed to prepare for that, which has been missed out on in the last 15,000 years that we had time to prepare for that. It's just been in the last few years that things now have been rushed through, right? We now have Pentagon hearings, we have presidents coming forward. We have people, who are feeling that there is messages coming through them and so on. These changes in consciousness and in the reality field have been more persistent in the last few years than they have ever been. Interestingly enough, when I was in the programs and there was established contact with non-human intelligences, and it's so normal to say that nowadays, because we have the affirmation, the confirmation everywhere that this is true. The number one thing that they all said is prepare, get prepared for the new time that is unfolding. It has been prophesied and has been, told you people in a way. And the number one thing that they said was learn how to modulate energies. And again, it's so funny because it sounds like such a basic thing to learn, but at the same time, the reality field here and the indoctrination, the way that people have been set up and learned or unlearned certain things, makes it challenging, makes it different, right? So one of the things that we got to talk about today is basically the abilities of the psychic abilities that are re-emerging, that people can train. I expect humanity very soon to not only have in their wallet, not only have the monthly gym membership, but also have a gym membership for psionics, for psychic presence, for psychic awareness. Because that is something where beyond any technology, the psychic probability, the psychic potential that is inside of humans and other beings as well, directly connects them to the reality field around them and can change reality beyond the norm stream, beyond what is normal. Things can happen that are so paranormal or supranormal that the standard logics don't apply anymore, right? And people can shift from something where they're like, oh, how do we get to the next point, to, oh my God, it just happened in a very supernatural, super weird way, you know?
Magnificent way.
Magnificent. I do remember this one time, we talked about that yesterday in the car basically, when in the project we had contact with the species called the Greys, and at one point they were telling me, you know, Tim, you know that you are now capable of like just bilocating, just switching out of reality into a different realm. And I was sitting there and I was like, that feels right, but at the same time it also feels quite overwhelming, especially for the amount of overwhelming interactions that, you know, I already was sitting in, you know, like being in a container, being in these situations, and then also like having these mind-shattering or reality-shattering talks about what is actually possible. But the interesting thing is going, and we classify that as going from a level 3 planet to a level 4 planet, is that we're all opening up for infinity. We're all opening up for, oh my gosh, we are the infinity themselves, impersonated into and condensed into a form that we deliberately can form and create ourselves. And that is something where I personally see my task in conveying that, teaching that, and bringing that, and also developing that with people, you know, because certain things like bilocation, I find it very, very interesting, but the more we create that and develop that together as a group, it becomes, you know, the new norm. And some of the fear factors about what is, you know, happening, we don't have any issues going into a sleep mode, right? We have no issue with that at all. So changing some of these perceptions, changing what death means, changing what, you know, existence, being somewhere in a room, what we see, all of these things can change and shift into a wondrous reality. And I see that as part of my mission in Ticket to Ride and beyond that.
You mentioned a couple concepts that are very interesting, and I think we can talk about a little bit more, which is, the first one is bilocation, that I think we could describe a little bit more. This word bilocation has been in ancient texts that have been around for thousands of years, and even more modern-ish texts that talk about things like ascended masters. Life and Masters of the Far East talks about bilocation. 9 Faces of Christ talks about bilocation. So a lot of these more modern texts that talk about the initiate process into becoming a master, a walking master, bilocation is a regular conversation, but maybe the mainstream, or might be the first time people hear that word. So what we mean by bilocation is when the physical body is in one arena, but another form of the body, the more energetic body, goes to another space at the same time. So that's my understanding of bilocation. Is that what you meant by bilocation?
Well, I'm taking that even further. I'm speaking about directly changing the position of the body inside of the grid.
So in bilocation, one form of the body would stay in one arena, and then another form would go to another arena at the same time, which is, from my understanding, why the word is bi, because they're both happening simultaneously, and conscious awareness could be conscious in either of them. Is that what you mean? But is it different what you mean?
I mean it in a very much broader and more extended form.
Wow.
Yeah, because ultimately the body, himself, herself, the position that you have inside of the reality field has something to do with your self-perception. It has something to do with how the pineal gland is tuned into a certain frequential field. And it has something to do with how the non-localized form of yourself is interacting with the environment. But all of that is existing at infinite locations at the same time.
Yeah.
So what the Greys meant in that moment as a technique for us to develop and to tap into is that we are realizing that a body is at the very same time, bi means twice, you know, means two or multiple. So your presence in the space, our presence in space, exists parallelly in a different in a different environment as well. So basically the body as an architecture, as a form, would not move physically. We never do. That's the funny thing about like being a one-point field in the universe, right? The universe has this essential challenge in the beginning that there is no motion, there's no movement, because everything exists at the same location, the same point. So what the universe, we as the universe came up with is essentially two techniques. One is layering, especially frequential layering. It means that we all exist in the same location, but we all are kind of like in frequential forms aligned to different reality realms. Just as we can tune a radio receiver, you know, the information of the radio field that are transported through that field, they all exist in the same space, in the same location, but just by dialing in or out, you can completely change if you want to listen to KWL or whatever these other radio channels are called. But the second thing is that the universe creates these parallel forms where depth is just an illusion. It's something that we create. It's a logic where we can walk through the universe even though we never make any mile.
Depth and movement.
Depth and movement, right? We never move anywhere, you know, because it's one location. The universe is just one location in a way, and everything else is what we call a partitioning effect. So a partition means that it's artificially set up space, an illusion of space that exists in the same container, but just by partitioning it, you receive these individual localized spaces where you can live in the vast majority. How we interact with other life forms, you know, too. We do have, just as a quick excursion, we do have horizontal life forms which all kind of like exist in the same partition, but then we do have vertical life forms, and they are kind of like layered over us, you know. They exist in the same realm, but we don't see them because they are, you know, kind of like stacked upon our reality, and so on and so on. And here's the thing, the technique that we can learn, will learn, and not everyone is supposed to learn the same techniques, and not everyone is supposed to do telekinesis. Not everyone is supposed to do, you know, all these things.
People will feel it.
People will feel what's right for them, right? And that's one of my tasks that I see is like I'm showing people these techniques, and they decide what they need to focus on, right?
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And the technique here is to realize that the body and the observable point exist as a parallel version in the quantum field in a different environment. So what the Grace was suggesting is becoming present in that moment and realizing that everything around us is editable, right? It can be shifted,
malleable.
it's malleable, it's modifiable.
Malleable,
yeah. So ultimately changing the environment around us will keep us in the same location, but somehow the environment is changing. And it's just another illusion that we can play with, right? We see that in computer games and so on. We don't move in a computer game. We're still, you know, looking at the same monitor, but we can just take a character and respawn him or her in a different location.
I would actually call that timeline jumping. And when someone makes a quantum leap to a different timeline that's stacked up upon one another, would that be an accurate way to describe it? Because I use terms based on intuition, based on what I perceive is a word to describe something. Are we talking about the same thing when I say timeline jumping, when someone shifts the baseline frequency on a subconscious level and they can shift the reality field?
In a certain way, I mean, time is movement in this version of the reality, right? So ultimately, anything we're doing, even when we're just walking through a room, that is already walking through time.
So
right?
you would consider that timeline jumping, but I mean, like, what? So what word would you use to describe when someone goes from one reality field to a different one stacked? Like maybe they heal, they transform something within, and their true reality field shifts, and even the people around them start treating them differently. What we'll do in Ticket to Ride, quantum shifting, that I'll take people through, that actually happens. People do a shift on that quantum level, on a subconscious level. Their frequency shifts, and then people around them just treat them differently. Right. Someone they've been married to their whole life all of a sudden no longer does that same pattern that has been happening for 30 decades, and they're like, what just happened? It's different. And I'm like, yes, because you've shifted to a higher frequency, so now that person is choosing to meet you at that higher frequency. So I usually call that timeline jumping. So what would you actually call that? What I think I'm describing is what you're saying, the grays are showing you an opportunity to jump to a different experience of the reality field, but a different version of it. So I use the word jump, but you would use the word bilocation for that?
Yeah, I kind of would. I mean, here's the thing.
So fascinating.
It is fascinating. And ultimately it is utilizing and taking on the same principle of the universe, right? That doesn't naturally come with a name anyway, but it's all part of the phenomenon of what the universe is, right? So basically probabilities, possibilities that all exist in the infinity. Mm-hmm. That's why I say when what we call the planet going from level 3 to level 4 means opening up for that infinity, the awareness of, oh my gosh, we're all infinite, we're all infinity. That means we're not limited to certain things. And the techniques are playing with exactly that, you know. Time in the way that it's been discovered on this planet, you know, thinking of Einstein, who was looking into that as one of the first, beyond other physicists, is that time acts almost as, well, it acts as an additional dimension, right? Mm-hmm. So while we have like depth and you know, width and other things and so on, time is basically another container that indeed we can move through. Mm-hmm. And usually people have only the perception that time goes linearly in only one direction. But in reality, time ripples outwards from the observable point. So, and it's funny because just a few weeks ago, I read news, mainstream, normstream news, where they were like figuring out that a decision that we take right now can influence the past, yes. Right? And we have certain quantum phenomena where this is already in the norm stream. It is just something that is so beyond what people have programmed their own linearity, but this will break up because right now we are in that time, right? Yeah. We have that discussion right now. Everyone can think of these things. And what you're doing with people, which is highly effective, is basically taking the present observable point, reaching out and changing some of the ways that time and the observer has worked in the past, because yes. That is still existing. So both time traveling and quantum timeline healing, as you name it, but also what I would call bilocation. You know, they all come from the similar principle, a similar physical principle, speaking that everything exists in that one point field. Same with telepathy, right? And then overall, we also have like the connectivity to the reality field, which is something that we gotta teach, we gotta learn, right? Yeah. Everyone, even like just internalizing these thoughts, like, oh yeah, okay, I'm one with my reality field. That doesn't necessarily change much in the very moment. We need to know how to work with that, how to modulate energies, how to modulate this reality field and do it. You said something so important that I want to like bring home for a moment, because this is a profound awareness when we can let it land on a cellular level, which is that awareness that reality is rippling out from that one observer now. And this is widely accepted in modern mathematical theorems that the past
can be influenced by the present. So like you said, what modern science is discovering, this is reaching mainstream science and is accepted in mathematical theorems today. So that now moment,
I really don't care.
And you don't care because you've known it, but it's important that we acknowledge that science is doing this now.
Yes.
These things are being widely talked about. That's exciting,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So now this is important for everyday life, because you're talking about the shift from level 3 consciousness to level 4. Level 4 is where we open up to infinity. What that means for everyone listening is that wherever you are listening to this right now is where infinite potentials exist. So if someone is listening to this in their kitchen, that means that multiple reality fields, multiple potentials exist for them right now.
Yeah.
This is a radical shift in awareness when we think about modulating our reality field. Because what a lot of people get off about manifestation is they think they need to become something that's out there in the future, or they need to try to go get abundance. They need to try to go get their ideal partner or ideal job. What we're awakening to as a civilization is the awareness that right now is where reality is rippling out from. It's not about going to get something. It's about tuning a frequency within so that right here in your living room, in your bedroom, in your kitchen, you can shift the frequency and the reality field shifts. So that's a radical change. That is something where we're awakening to see that we are the ones that shift our reality from within. And that's hugely empowering.
Yeah, I mean, it completely changes everything in the universe. We have a whole module on that in Ticket to Ride, multiple actually. And I think, to be very honest, and be very humble too, but I'm convinced that Ticket to Ride is the best course to teach that, to explain that to beings, so that it intellectually is internalized within the mind of everyone joining us on that ride. But furthermore, we bring in the practice, right? Yeah. And that is a decision too. But there's also a certain obligation of going into the doing, right? And that is where sometimes it falls apart for people, because they even when they know about the rudiments of spirituality, the rudiments of how to modulate, of modulation of energies and so on, it is the constant practice, the motivation that comes from Ticket to Ride that really keeps people on their track in changing. And here's what shifts: the whole reality field becomes the playground, and it becomes something that is remarkably more beautiful, because the shift is not bound to linear progression anymore, but rather to the tuning effect, right? The way how we communicate with the reality around us, how we design these things. It is almost like people, oftentimes, especially the norm stream, but I see that in millions of people who are already meditating, who are doing yoga, who are already, who've read the books about manifestation, who watch the norm stream television shows on it or so, and have like an idea of like, oh yeah, I can speak reality into existence, or what I wish becomes true, or something like that. But there's so much more depth to that, and becoming fully aware of the language that we're teaching, right? Becoming aware of how to actively communicate with the reality realm and seeing oneself in that, right? Because it's a dualistic process of in and out. So we take people into, the soul level, which sits at level 6, level 7 consciousness. And this soul level is sending in streams of energy that contain the information that then the receiver of consciousness, the other side of us, sitting, I guess for most people watching right now at level 4, not anymore at level 3, but used to be level 3 for many. So it's sitting there, he or she is sitting in that reality realm. So what we're establishing is this highly complex, but yet at the same time so elegantly simple principle of communicating, right? And the way that you and I are talking to one another, and I can convey images, I can convey emotions, I can take people through things. And the way that I say, warm sandy beach, it's like almost like as if you can feel the graininess of the sand beneath your feet, and you can feel the warmth on your skin and so on. So in the same way, we initiate this communication with these other layers of ourselves. And in the very moment when that happens, these layers that are otherwise not really speaking the same vocabulary are like integrating and harmonizing and growing with one another. And then they create something. And then in Ticket to Ride, we inspire people to build their perfect garden, right? Where they're sitting in their perfect garden and like, this is reality. And then we crystallize that into the reality field. So we have so many people who are so excited for the next round to start, because it's a constant evolution of their own being. It's not just something where they watch and are like, oh yeah, I think I understand the concept fully. It is something where we actively evolve and go on this ride together.
Yeah, for quite some time, this learning process of the evolution of human consciousness has been about gathering information. And I would say the most important thing now is knowing how to shift things, is being so honest in the truth of our hearts about the different areas and categories of our lives, and looking at them not with judgment, not with resisting what is, but with saying, I remember that I am the one in which reality ripples out from in my universe. So with that awareness, what would be a 10 out of 10 in this area of life?
Nice.
What would I want to see improve in this one? And again, it's very different when it's not looked at with judgment or with thinking we're doing something wrong or resisting what is, but instead the joy of the play of creation. This is why one of the most ancient words that are used to describe this reality field in Sanskrit is a leela. Loosely translated into English, that's the cosmic play of creation. Reality is meant to be danced into form by dancing with the different modulation of realities in the different realms. So this is what is fantastic about what we're doing, because it's not just concepts. It's like, okay, now let's go train. Let's go bring this into practice so we can create our most beautiful reality fields together.
Okay, everyone, it is time that I speak out my heartfelt invitation for you to join Ticket to Ride. I know you heard us talk about that before, and very likely you thought about joining us. It is an amazing experience. We stay together for 3 months, and we do that up to multiple times per year, but you only have to get your ticket once. So really think about that and then opt into that opportunity. Once more, or maybe for the very first and only time, the universe is showing you an open door, from Sarah's and mine heartfelt invitation. Please join us there and really benefit from the time in Ticket to Ride with us. All the information you find in the description, and also here's probably a QR code. So get your smartphone out, visit the website. So you have 3 more seconds to click the button, and then we go back into the talk. Thank you so much. So as a quick summary and back to our talk, I wanna say something that most species and most evolved forms of conscious life, summarize as the 3 principles that every one of us can learn and go through. And these 3 principles are, first, the informational context, the knowing, the know yourself. We talked about that in the last talk, by the way. It's in the playlist. Second of all, so it's collecting the information, right? Like, what is all this? What are the information? Physics, right? History, who am I? And so on and so on. But that doesn't mean anything in action. So the second thing is learning how to modulate energies, which is learning the techniques and practicing the techniques in order to project outwards and receiving inwards, how to learn the language of the universe, right? Learn the right vocabulary and the way to communicate with the universe in order to have this directional part of like, okay, I can change, I can shift, I can actively play, you know, like almost like Play-Doh, like creating a reality field. And then we have the third one, and I think this is the special moment because all three, we make sure that all three of these are covered in Ticket to Ride. And I'm especially happy that you do such a wonderful job with the third principle, which is the alignment part. It is the part of balancing oneself. Because just knowing knowing the magic and having the book of spells and all these things, and then also having the motivation of like, oh, I'm going for it, that is great. That can take people somewhere, but it also can take people into the wrong directions. And we've seen that in the last iterations of the universe, where people were very focused on almost it's power dynamics, right? It is how can I use power in order to, not in a bad way, but to create and modulate the universe, how a directional aspect. But then there is something so important, and you do such an amazing job with that, which is the balancing of oneself, becoming humble, becoming free, and becoming balanced in oneself. And I would love for you to expand on that and to open up the curtain of what that actually means.
Yeah. So I'll say it in different words, because you were talking about the power and the energy, the directional energy of I'm going to use my energy to create my reality and modulate my reality. It works. And it's where humanity has been for years. But it is, I'm going to be so straightforward, it is exhausting when the alignment piece isn't there.
Incomplete.
It's exhausting and incomplete, and it doesn't work over time. It doesn't work for the health of the body. It doesn't work for the greatest good of the all over time. It is very forceful energy. It is the difference between force and the difference between true inner power, which includes the alignment piece. So what I would describe as this beautiful opportunity to bring in the alignment piece, and what is changing in this world today is that the alignment piece is coming back online. And that alignment piece is saying, you actually don't have to use your energy to create, because the energy to create is all pervading. There's an all-pervading love in this universe that is pulsing, that is holding us, that is moving things into alignment for the greatest good of the all, always. And it's always there. It's like when people ask me the question, how do I become more abundant? I say, you don't. You realize that abundance already exists, that there is a river of abundance that is flowing, and we can allow ourselves to surrender into it, and then use the directional energy to move in alignment with the flow that's already there. So there are these two concepts in the Vedas. I love going back to the OG information that's been there for thousands of years. And we talked about the first concept, Leela. That's the cosmic play of creation. And that we're saying so boldly that life is meant to be a play of creation. And the universe itself is learning through the hearts of all of us that it doesn't have to be so hard. It doesn't have to be so dramatic. And it gets to be a play of creation, like you're saying, the Play-Doh that you're refining and just playing with. Now, the second term I want to bring in is moksha, which is such a beautiful term. It is a term of being able to act fully with the full devotion of the heart without attachment to the outcome. Well, the question that would come with these two concepts, the play of creation, acting fully without attachment, is like, well, how? How do we do that? Well, when we surrender the subconscious limitations, the illusions of fear and scarcity that no longer need to come with us, and we surrender into the loving arms of the universe, it becomes a natural expression to then act with full devotion based on the joy of our spirit, based on the love of our hearts, of what we want to see more in our world, in our lives. It becomes natural to let that action emerge through us instead of trying to grip and control the action through force. So what I see as a magnificent potential that's opening up in our world is we're remembering this. We're remembering that we don't have to force, we don't have to control, we don't have to grip. We can actually allow ourselves to surrender into the love of this universe, which is us, and let that move us forward. And that's a very different way of creating. Many people in our worlds, in Ticket to Ride, in our sphere, and many people ask me personally once they're on the inside of our programs, Sarah, how do you do all of the different things? I say, because I don't. I allow this universe to move me. And at any time I get out of alignment with that alignment energy, this love of this universe, surrendering into the natural flow of our soul, of the pulse of joy in our spirit that's moving us forward. Anytime I'm out of alignment with that, I start getting tired. I start getting like, oh my gosh, this is so much. And then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm only tired because I'm trying to grip and control. Let me surrender again. And then I'm like, oh yeah, the love of creation is moving me again. And I don't have to worry about doing because the doing is already done. It's actually moving me. So to bring it down to, a very practical term inside of Ticket to Ride, what I want to say is we are waking up to a time that is unlike ever before because healing is faster. It's easier. I'm going to be bold and say that. It is easier than ever before. Making shifts on a subconscious level is faster and quicker than ever before, and it's going to continue accelerating because it's easier than ever to hold consistently a higher level of consciousness. And that ease is going to accelerate over time. This is the times we're living in. However, that doesn't mean it's done. What it means is that moment by moment, we've got to learn how to have the freedom to choose our reality field. We've got to learn how to choose what reality we want to exist in, how to refine it on a subtle energetic level so we don't have to deal with the dramas of life that wind up teaching us that we're off path. We've got to learn to see the signs sooner, learn to see the signs of alignment, learn to see the signs of what's in alignment with our energy field, what is in alignment with how we want to live. Once we learn to see those things quicker, it becomes easier to heal, easier to refine, and easier to modulate energies. And that ease is going to accelerate over time because it gets to be this good. It gets to be this easy. It is meant to be this beautiful in our universe. And we're waking up to remember that now.
At this point, I want to break with one of the misconceptions, with one of the strongest misconceptions that people have when they hear something like non-attachment, right? Because a lot of the things like, oh, you got to get rid of attachments and so on, some of the spiritual teachings out there sound as if it means stripping away any type of fun. And that's so
not
fun.
it.
I knew that you're gonna have that type of reaction. But for a lot of people, they feel like that. They feel like they gotta go into monk mode, or like go to Tibet and sit there in icy snow or something like that, which is a valuable practice. You can do these things, but ultimately, non-attachment is something very, very different, and it builds as the symbiosis of what you were just sharing, of what I'm sharing, because funnily enough, in Ticket to Ride, we both stand for certain aspects where people get the best of both worlds, of thousands of worlds, because they have this directional part and the alignment part. And the question about non-attachment is not about how do people strip away everything, how do they stop with coffee, drinking, eating and other things. It is more about the moment of realizing that everything is at hand, right? Yeah. Everything is all there.
Yes.
I always say at one point in everyone's life, you hear this soothing voice saying, it can be that easy, right? We said that before. And then people, usually people are going to debate that, because they are used to certain dramas and certain linear perceptions and so on. But it means, non-attachment means that nothing is real anyway, right? But ultimately everything is at hand, because the universe consists of infinite energies, which means infinite possibilities. Anything can turn into anything, everything can turn into anything, right? So the question is when practicing this type of non-attachment, it's not about getting rid of something or trying to be very strict and disciplined in order to get something out of their life. It is more about, hey, when you align with your soul's purpose and your own soul spark, which is some of the things that we are on a quest in Ticket to Ride, to finding and to developing the perfect garden, right? What is it when you have all the resources, when you have all the energy, when we all have the energies? What are we naturally drawn into making, right? So the question about abundance for a lot of people that are saying like, you know, I want to be abundant, I want to do these things and so on. It is more about realizing, because abundance is there, what do we naturally flow into what direction, right? Yeah. There are certain things, there are people out there who, when they have all the abundance, they still might be doing music, right? Yeah. They might become millionaires, you know, and they still might work at an ice cream store or something because they love making ice cream, or they would still hang out in their basement playing guitar. You know, like Jimi Hendrix is something that pops up in my head right away, you know. That dude lived with his guitar all the time. He became a millionaire as an artist, but all he wanted to do is just sit on the floor and just play guitar straight, you know. That's it. So that is the spark. And once that is found, and again, we show how to find that. Once that is found, somehow the new reality resolves around it. And then directional part, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna force into something, that becomes, you know, like directional energy that aligns with this feeling of like, oh, I wanna do that, you know? And suddenly it's almost like what kids are doing when they're sitting in their room and they're playing with something, right? They are very much focused on what they're doing. They are in the zone of enjoying. And that is what gets the universe into aliveness. And that is something that we gotta practice all the time.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because sometimes as soon as someone hears the word non-attachment, they think, oh, and especially non-attachment to the outcome, they think, oh, I need to just let go of the outcome and whatever happens, happens. But that actually puts a lot of people in a strange way on a subconscious level, victim to life instead of creators. Exactly. So it's very important to have this level of refinement. Non-attachment to the outcome and acting fully with non-attachment to the outcome doesn't mean you don't hold the vision of an outcome. It means that you're not attached to your identity based on that outcome meaning something about who you are, your worth, your self-love, whatever it is. You know who you are. You know how you serve. You trust that it's all in hand, like you said. You trust that it's all taken care of, and you can hold the vision with the directional energy toward an outcome. And you can allow yourself to go into the flow. Allow yourself to be in the joy of creation. Something, whenever I talk about this concept, I'll have entrepreneurs in the space, big CEOs in the space, who then say, well, how do I get something done if I'm not attached to the outcome? Which is why I love that we're talking about refinement here. If Thomas Edison wasn't focused on the outcome of creating the light bulb, there would have been no way he would have done the 9,999 tries until the 10,000th try where he got it.
I want to, at this point, add that Thomas Edison didn't do the light bulb, and that he was very much taking it away and patented it from someone else, that he just took it away.
But the point is that a reporter once asked him, how did it feel to fail 9,000 times? And he said, I didn't fail 9,000 times. I found 9,000 ways to make it work. Right? 9,000 ways it didn't, so I could make it work. So that was the point of what I'm saying. It's not to say that we don't hold a vision. It's not to say that we don't go in all conviction to the vision. It's just we don't have to grip or control because it's all in hand. And it's much less about it needing to happen the way we think it has to, and instead about us going into the flow and discovering the most joyful way, refining until we get to that frequency that we're like, oh, we're here. We found that golden frequency, that this is the inevitable outcome, and the reality is now emerging through me to have this experience of the outcome I want to have. So it's actually a beautiful dance of this inner refinement, and we do hold a vision, you know? So it's very important that we allow ourselves to talk about this, or we'd have a bunch of spiritual people who aren't actually influencing the reality field because they forgot to hold the vision. So it's very important that we make the distinction that non-attachment is pure freedom, and we allow ourselves to go into the play in this reality field of creation.
Thomas Edison, that old crook. I said it on YouTube. It's okay.
Bold.
Okay. Bold. Well, deserved. Well, anyway, one of the things that I really love that you're saying that, and I want to I just want to point that out because you're very much focused on the serving nature of the universe, right? And for a lot of people out there who want to attend Ticket to Ride, they rightfully think of their own lives first. And that is so good because ultimately we serve by just being. We serve by living our best life. We serve by creating our perfect garden. Why? Because we're doing that as the representation of the universe, and that means by us leveling up, we're leveling up everything, right? So the idea of serving is not about like, you know, something unpleasant that needs to be done or discipline or something like that. We gotta find this moment where all these principles that we were talking about in this talk are aligned with one another. And then there's a normal, like a natural stream that is gonna bring us forward. And by holding the vision too and actively approaching it and accumulating information and knowledge about ourselves and the universe, and by being aligned with what sparks our heart, we naturally go into a much richer, much more blessed and beautiful existence in the universe, not only for this one body type and for being a human, but rather for the entirety of every upcoming life that follows after this or in this, right?
And that's the big difference with Ticket to Ride, because we're talking on that multi-dimensional level. We're not just training on the personality level, we're training on the soul level and the multi-dimensional level. I want to share this right now for anyone's heart on here who is spending your life serving others. Thank you so much. And you are meant to be included in the compassion you give to others. You are meant to be serving self as you serve others, because we're all one. So if we are not filled up, how could we serve others to the highest degree? So I love that you talked about one polarity of people who know the importance of that, but I wanted to serve the hearts as well who think that service is sacrifice, so we can just dissolve that away and we say, every single heart on here deserves to be fulfilled, deserves to have their most beautiful life, and that becomes a service to all. And then we think about, how can I now contribute this if we feel aligned to?
I go so far to say, the observer comes first, right?
I love that you said that. So important.
In creating the most beautiful reality. Everyone, that is what we do in Ticket to Ride.
Yes.
And we would, again, very much invite you to visit the page. QR code is somewhere here. Scan it again, go into the description, look at the page. And there's a reason why you're watching this, right? It's an open invitation for your soul, for your mind, for your awareness, for your quality in life. Because ultimately we want to live the most amazing life. And the more Sarah and I are teaching that into our universes, other beings, other aspects of the universe start developing that and start to radiate that into their universes. Besides that, the ride is really an amazing, joyful movement. It is actually really, really special how many people are texting us and saying like, Tim, Sarah, Ticket to Ride, the next round is starting very soon. We're so excited.
Come on in with us and allow us to build our most beautiful worlds together. It gets to be this good. It gets to be this beautiful. It is our birthright to create our most beautiful reality fields. And we would be honored to support you wherever you are in your journey to thrive through the shift in consciousness.
I'm very excited to see you very, very soon in Ticket to Ride. Click the link, get your ticket, and be with us. Our shift.